I first became aware of accretions and that wonderful community. Um, Boy, what year was it? I don't know. It was in the 20th century. Sometime in the late 90s, I was invited down to play a fantastic festival called the Big Sur Experimental Music Festival. And and that year I met so many great artists from around the country and around the world, but notably a great bunch of people that at the time seemed mostly centered in San Diego, in the San Diego area. Um, and I have met a number of them there. I can't remember exactly who I met there and who I met later on. I certainly met Marco Fernandez. Maybe Hans Fjellstedt, Damon was there, Nathan Hubbard, maybe Emily Hay. Um, just to name a few. That is by no means a complete list of all the wonderful people that I've met involved in the label and the producing of creative music in the San Diego area. Um, we became fast friends, and soon I was spending a little more time doing shows in San Diego. I was proud to be part of the Trummer Flora Spring Reverb Festival that took place both in San Diego and Tijuana, which was a fantastic experience where I met even more fantastic musicians. And then in addition to that, Marco and I did a West Coast tour. Marco was also the person that brought me on my inaugural tour of Japan, which has become kind of a staple for me. I don't get there every year, but I have developed a huge love for that country, the musicians, the people, the food, the culture. So since Marco's introduction, I've been there probably about 5 or 6 times over the last several years. And then I have been very, very honored to have Accretions count among the releases some of my records. A full solo record called Lyric Suite, which was a production done for a dance company, DeVita Monk's M-Body Dance Company out of Calgary, and I think that came out in 2004, 2005. And then Marco and I released a record that was mainly duets, but had some great guests, including Hako, another fantastic Accretions artist from Nishinomiya in Japan, and we recorded a bunch of that tour and released that maybe in 2000 something later. It was called Jerks and Creeps. Oddly enough, another scientific-oriented name, not referring to us as jerks and creeps, but kind of a way to describe how evolution moves instead of a smooth wave. Sometimes it moves in jerks and creeps and all sorts of stuff. So again, appealing to that armchair scientific part of my brain that seems to have kind of taken over in the last several years. The piece of music I contributed for the Accretions' 35th anniversary compilation is a track of solo prepared guitar, which is what I do with most of my musical musical time, and it's entitled "Mimicry Ring." A mimicry ring is basically refers to the interrelation of animals in the natural world that mimic each other. Most common harmless animal will mimic the color and pattern of a poisonous animal or a venomous animal to escape predation. And so mimicry ring really refers to the interrelationship of those animals and how they affect other animals. Kind of a biological way of talking about influence and inspiration in a certain way. The piece is also dedicated to a Japanese artist named Kumataro Ito, who was a wildlife and specifically marine illustrator, drawing and painting sea creatures. He was involved in a pretty well known in those circles expedition to the Philippines in 1908 aboard the USS Albatross as part of a survey done by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department at the time, where he illustrated and possibly even discovered a number of species of sea creatures, most notably nudibranchs, which are a type of sea slug. But when I say sea slug, don't get that wrong. These animals are anything but the slugs you might be familiar with. These animals are the most Pokemon-looking, psychedelic, colorful animals in the world. They absolutely belie what you would expect from a living creature. I've named the song so and dedicated it so because in the last few years I've developed a huge interest in the marine environment. I've become a scuba diver. I volunteer at the Seattle Aquarium. I take part in octopus surveys, and I just love to have my head underwater as much as possible. So that, as one might imagine, has affected my artistic inspiration, which is why I pick names that I don't know if it sounds like a mimicry ring, but I like picking names that kind of describe things that I'm really interested in or would like to share. Maybe somebody looks it up and finds out something about the natural world. The way I was influenced in high school when I was listening to bands like Bauhaus and The Smiths and The Cure and learning about Albert Camus, the existentialists, Antonin Artaud, the Bauhaus art movement, Keats, Yeats, all these artists and ideas that I discovered by, listening to these kind of arty rock bands at the time. So I've always kind of had that inspiration to name things in the hopes that somebody might be like, what's a mimicry ring? And learn something about the world around them. So, as with just about every other human being on the planet right now, life in the spring/summer of 2020 is very different than the life I was leading prior. It's especially difficult to watch so many performers and venues and record labels suffer greatly due to this pandemic. Certainly, that is a community that is being inordinately affected by this, given that technology isn't even up to the point where we can really even comfortably play together online due to latency and stuff like that. So whereas many enterprises have been able to jump onto an online format, bumps and all, of course, that has not really been an option for musicians and other performing artists. So that and just catastrophic venue closures because venue owners can't pay bills when they can't make money. Already operating on a shoestring, especially when you're talking about the kind of music that labels like Accretions promote. I mean, what a great marketing idea to pick music as a career and then try to find the most recondite corner of music and kind of stake our bets there. So I think a lot of us are used to, adversity. I think that's kind of the nature of trying to live as an artist, especially as an avant-garde artist. But even then, this is bigger than that, and I'm quite concerned and saddened about what the state of creative music is going to be when things do return to some semblance of normal and we can start convening again. It's going to be years kind of trying to figure out what we've lost, which makes it all the more important that we have labels like Accretions who are bravely promoting and producing creative music at a time when what was already difficult is nigh impossible. So I would highly encourage you or anyone to contribute to the crowdfunding program for Accretions, and help creative musicians and their labels and their venues stay afloat at this time, because right now in the world of arts, it's going to be hitting the peripheries of the arts much more profoundly than the more centered and economically viable mainstream.